how do increasing interest rates impact the green industry, and who is your hell yes customer in 2023, and does that need to change from who you were targeting in the past couple years? In today's podcast, I interviewed Jim Westover from LandOpt, who shares how changes in the economy are impacting the green industry and how to prepare.
We weren't getting the leads that I knew we could. We weren't getting the right leads.
What started happening is that our leads are more qualified.
Our sales have probably gone up by about 10 to 15% a year.
We're going to increase our sales volume by $1 million in a year.
Hey everyone, Jostes here, and welcome to the Landscaper's Guide. This show helps snow and landscape contractors grow your business through sales, marketing, and leadership ideas. I'm excited to announce that I'll be presenting the Landscaper's Guide to Sales and Marketing in a Recession at Rock On, LandOpt's prospective members workshop in February in Phoenix, Arizona. I've never been to Phoenix, should be fun. And today I interview LandOpt's president, Jim Westover, who shares a wealth of information, current information that we just recorded last week about what's going on in the recession and how do you adapt and how does it impact your sales and marketing, plus some tips for retaining and upselling your current clients. So I hope to see you, if possible, in Phoenix. I'll have a link in the description and also on landscapersguide.com/events, where I list the other workshops and events we've got coming up. Hope to see you there. Let's dive into today's interview with Jim Westover. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Landscaper's Guide. Today, I'm excited to interview Jim Westover. He's the president of LandOpt. And Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jack, for having me. I appreciate it.
So for people who are new, maybe haven't heard of you, who are you? What's some of your background and what is LandOpt?
Yeah, so, my background, I just took over as president about a year ago from LandOpt. So about 1 year in the green industry. My prior life was 15 years of franchising, which is very similar to the LandOpt model. The LandOpt model is really it's about as close to kind of a franchise as you can be. There's protected territories, there's service agreements, and my prior life, if you will, was actually with Jellystone Park. So I've been in beautiful green spaces for close to a decade now, and I've held titles from vice president of operations to VP of sales. A lot of what I do and rely on is analytics, because in essence, you're using data and information to try to get operational change. And then, of course, you're going back and measuring for that operational change. So it's been a big part of who I am and what I do. And one of the reasons I like numbers is they don't have any feelings. And I think that's where everybody gets the phrase, it is what it is, because it is what it is. You can look at it any way you want, but if the answer is 4, the answer is 4, so to speak. As far as LandOpt goes, they have been around since 2004. They are, a continuing education, consulting type business. We help you at all facets, whether it's HR, coaching. We do kind of coaching. We do on-site. So very similar to, a regional operations team that you would experience in franchise. We do, one of our big things is end of year financial planning. I love it. Everybody gets together, they exchange ideas. We discuss pricing strategies for the upcoming year. We go over economic data. We put your information on the board, and we actually even review it with our peers. And they're higher end, I'll say, landscape companies. Our average unit volume is 5 million. We have over 20 network in the network currently, and we're really just hoping to keep focusing and taking them to growth and get them to the next level and meeting whatever their strategy is. And even if that eventually becomes an exit strategy, because eventually you want to build value in your brand, and there is a point where you go, this might be a good spot for me to take the next step. And we're able to help with that as well too. So we're kind of a one-stop shop for a lot of things. It's just a matter of what services and fits your need.
One of the cool things that we'll talk about a little bit later, but I wanted to let listeners know that you have an event on February 22nd and 23rd in Phoenix, Arizona. It's the Rock On Prospective Members Workshop. And I love the benchmarking that you do with people. So I'm going to ask you about that later. I'm super excited to be speaking at that event about marketing in a recession. My talk is The Landscaper's Guide to Sales and Marketing in a Recession. And that's really the topic I wanted to talk with you about today is, what are you seeing? How does the recession impact the green industry? And it's kind of a moving target in some ways. Today, it's Thursday, January 19th, 2023. I'm going to have this come out, next Friday. So what are you seeing like today? You were just talking to me today about some of the things that you were sharing with your clients.
Yeah, it's very much a moving target because of basically all the economic levers that the government's pulling right now. And we knew this was coming. We told our folks, look, it was 8.2% was the inflation rate in November when I spoke with them last, during our planning meeting. I said they are going to start pulling the lever, and the lever is going to be higher interest rates. And the higher interest rates are designed to do a couple things. It's to slow down discretionary spending because it's inflating everything. And, typically that leads to a tighter job market as well. So before there was basically 2 jobs for every 1 unemployed person out there. That number is what they're trying to shrink, and they're doing it through the Fed rate. Now, everything through it today, we are starting to see it. So it's at 6.5 currently as we do this podcast. And, a lot of the economic indicators that we spoke about since then are down. There's still going to be another Fed, rate hike potentially here in the next week. And really where you're going, okay, what does that mean for me as a landscape company? Well, depending on who your consumer is, and this is why, we love having Jack involved with our event, is where we got to teach people kind of the hunt and fish, right? You really got to hone in on what is your hell yes customer, as you would say. I've listened to your audio book, so I know. And
thank you.
That's what we want to make sure our guys have not forgotten to do. The phone is not just going to ring off the hook like it's done in the past, because those dollars are drying up. There's some people that were, doing home equity line of credits, doing cash out refis because you had high home values. And you had cheap money. Well, the money's no longer cheap, right? The money's now expensive. So now you are looking for a more refined consumer, probably a higher income consumer than you have in the past, or have been marketing to. You just didn't know it. I just had a discussion with probably 10 of our licensees, and the backlog's still there, and everybody has the backlog to kind of sit back on. But what they're not finding is their bookings were as strong going forward as they've had in the past. That's really what we're starting to see. We did a survey, that we had out there, and the 2 things that they worried most or commented most on is like, hey, we have a strong backlog, but number 2 was economic uncertainty. So Jack, I don't know what you're seeing out there from the sales and marketing perspective, but maybe you can shed some light on it a little bit.
Well, yeah, and I definitely would love to, Jim. But I'm curious though, before we move on to sales and marketing, though, you mentioned the tighter job market and how there were 2 positions open per 1. How are you seeing that impact the green industry, right? Because for the past, I've had my company for about 14 years now, this coming summer, and a solid 8 of them have been really focused in the green industry. And ever since I started working in the industry, there's always been a challenge for getting labor. The past few years, it got even harder, it seemed. Is that going to ease up, or is it not going to ease up? What do you think is going to happen specifically to labor for the green industry?
I think it depends on how you structure yourself in the past. There's still a strong contingency that's really they depend on H-2B, right? Or they depend on other means of H-2B type programs. What we're starting to see in some of our larger cities in the suburbs where some of these are located is we are seeing them having the employees now that they haven't had in the past. And it's just because there's not as many options out there, right? We've also coached our folks to be more refined with your process. At some point, it was almost like the law of large numbers, right? I'm going to put in 10 and let's hope, 3 work out perfectly. What we've been doing is more of a screening process, if you will, in order to do that. So we've been putting them through three days of on-site coaching, and even making sure that this is even for them. So we're being more efficient in that process as well, because we're not wasting times with folks that aren't going to be there for a while.
Right. So your new hires are going through a 3-day coaching period to see if they can make it. So is this like an obstacle course, or like how do you eliminate these people?
Yeah, no,
So
I mean,
how do you find out who's going to make it?
It's part of one of the things you do get with LandOpt is we do an AVA assessment. So we right away we know what your personality is. So we try to use that on how to coach to you. And then, of course, we also do an HR inventory when LandOpt comes on. Now, our coaches are constantly doing an inventory when they're visiting these guys. But, we're kind of setting them up and taking them through the process of like, hey, this is the tools you're going to be working with. Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with doing this job? You may go ahead and shadow somebody for a day and they go, no, this isn't going to be it. And it's better to find that out ahead of time, opposed to 2 weeks down the road, and it's dragged out of the process. I think that'll lead to for us, it's led to more quality folks and efficiency and being very productive. But to get back to your question, the job market itself, I think eventually these smaller businesses out there that kind of depended on those dollars in the past, those jobs won't be there because that discretionary spending won't be there as much. That's really what we got to worry about. And those are more, I would say, probably at quick service restaurants and things like that. I think the running joke on the internet right now is the cost of eggs, poultry. So people have already seen it in retail. In December, retail was down more than they expected because they're not spending as much. So if you're not spending much on retail, you're not spending much over here on, let's say, quick service restaurants going out to eat. Those jobs are going to be naturally forced out to avenues that have the business. And landscaping for the most part is rather kind of recession proof, whereas there's always a need. And there's also, especially if you build your clientele properly, as that need will remain there because they're not as impacted as, say, other consumers.
Yeah, I mean the grass is going to grow and it's going to snow. We don't know exactly how much, but we can, landscaping will need to be done, and people are still spending money on it. And it is an interesting question to see how much will they spend. Will they spend? Maybe they just spend less. The past 2 years are also unprecedented because the whole shutdown of the economy and travel and the whole move to work from home and stimulus money and PPE loans and all of this funny money was just kind of pushed into the economy for people who couldn't travel, and they're at home and they're spending it on landscaping. So I feel like it artificially stimulated demand for landscaping. And some people who may have gotten landscaping a couple of years from now, 3 or 4 years from now, maybe they moved that timeline up and they got it done last year and the year before. I don't know. We'll see. One of the trends, one of the things that I look at is Google Trends. If we look at landscaping, and we look at it over, since 2004, really, there's pretty consistent demand and searches for landscaping, and it peaks every typically May nationally. Now the peak the last 2 years, I mean, was significantly higher than the peak of all of the years prior. And so then this year, though, May 2022, it it didn't go down to zero. It kind of just normalized. It went back to the normal level of demand. So there's a lot to be seen, I think, about what does this spring actually look like. And we'll just have to see where the cards fall later this summer. And during times where people's budgets are even more strained, I think you need to increase your advertising and also your reviews, right? So when people have less money to spend, they're going to be more cautious about where they spend it. And that's where online reviews, I believe, become even more important. And one of your greatest assets going into a recession is your existing customer base. It's much easier to retain a customer in good times than it is to acquire one. And it's definitely true during a recession, right? So if you have maintenance clients, retaining them should be a priority. Upselling them, they're probably high profit margin, small projects that you can get existing customers to do while you're doing maintenance for them. And one of the strategies that I recommend is to collect feedback from customers. So at Ramblin Jackson, we use a software, our own software, Ramblin Reviews, where we ask customers for feedback on a scale of 0 to 10. How likely are you to recommend Ramblin Jackson? I actually use it myself, and we use it with our clients. And this is key to retaining clients and finding out what operational problems you have. Because when you send that out maybe quarterly to a maintenance client and you start getting 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, right? You're starting to get negative feedback. You can identify, well, which crew is this? And you can call those customers and find out what's going on. And by doing that, you can nip a problem in the bud and listen to that customer and retain them. And retaining that client is very profitable compared to losing them and trying to replace them. So taking care of our current customers, marketing to them, right, and getting reviews from them can help us then get new customers, right? Because if we have a bunch of angry customers and we don't even know about it, they're going to spread negative word of mouth to their neighbors. Hey, I noticed you get your lawn mowed by Bob's Landscaping. How's that going? Oh, it's awful. They left the gate open and my dog escaped. They leave cigarette butts on the lawn, whatever horror stories, right? So that was one of them, an emphasis on reviews, on search. And then also for outbound marketing, we're advising clients to do direct mail. And direct mail is something I do personally. I'm increasing my own direct mail budget this year. And postcards are a great way you can pinpoint specific neighborhoods. As far as getting into hell yes customer, if you know that you have certain customers in a certain part of town with a certain home value, all of that information is available, and you can easily broker a list for houses in, whatever zip code that are north of $500,000 in value, or whatever your hell yes customer is, and send them offers proactively with direct mail. So that's one of the things that I'll be sharing at your event too, is how to get started with that.
We used to know with Jellystone, first off, they all got a survey. We're all inviting them back. We wanted to create fans, and you got to understand the lifetime value of a customer, right? It's not just that one job. They might come back 2-3 times, and that was the same thing with Jellystone. I know you're going to come back 2 or 3 more times with your family, but if you create that negative review and they have the negative experience, they're not coming back. And I think that's what folks got to understand. And we got very granular with our data. We said, okay, we want median household income of 100,000 plus with kids. Okay, in this area, 10% of the population owns a trailer. And guess what? We want to market to mom, 35 to 53-year-old females, because if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. That's how we marketed. And I think there's ways that you can do the same, applications here in this green space as well. If you're sharp with your customer data, and there's systems out there, like an Aspire and some of these other ones that can do these things. You just got to be smart about how you set it up, and it'll really set you up for long-term success. You keep building and building that brand. And our guys, one of the first things I mentions, wow, about word of mouth. Word of mouth is what gets me. But you need to have more in your arsenal than just word of mouth, and that's where the SEO and some of the other items come into play.
Well, and to me, there's a distinction between referrals and word of mouth. And the distinction is that referrals are something that you proactively work for getting. Word of mouth is just going to happen. Hey, I noticed this. Hey, who do you use for this? That's where your reputation should become word of mouth, but you can't really control it, right? Whereas a referral strategy could be something like the cloverleaf strategy, which is where you imagine a cloverleaf and you give a print handout to the 4 houses that are right near the property that you're servicing, right? Or you could have an incentive. You could have gifts that you give your clients and let them know, hey, Jim, one of the ways that we grow our client base is, and we really like having clients like you, is through our referral program. And all we're looking for is to give this postcard to 3 of your friends. Is it okay if we give you a few postcards? And now you're making it easy for them to proactively refer you. And you could pay people money. You could say, hey, if so-and-so mentions you, we're going to give you $500. You'd have to have a pretty high lifetime value for it to be worth $500, but it could be as simple as a handwritten thank you card or a Starbucks gift card or, a gift card to the local coffee shop or whatever it is. Well, Jim, I can't wait to see you in Phoenix. Tell us a little bit about your event, Rock On, and in particular, the assessment, the benchmarking assessment you'll be doing for people. And do we have to be a LandOpt client currently to come to this event?
You do not have to be a LandOpt member currently. We're opening it for basically, $500, I think, per, 2 people. So you can bring yourself and maybe your GM. We are, asking you really ahead of time, submit your P&Ls. Let's take a look at it. Let's take an assessment, see if we can find something there for you. We'll benchmark you versus our numbers. We are going to run you through the full gambit. You're going to get to meet our coaches. They'll present to you and they'll talk to you as well, so you can kind of get to learn their kind of style, and they'll teach you some of their tactics and techniques. And you're also going to meet our HR specialist as well, and she'll walk you through some hiring techniques, some things we're going through. And she also does hiring as well, kind of a la carte as well for our members. And of course, there'll be some fun afterwards. And then the next day, Jack, we got you on stage, so we kind of have the it's kind of jam-packed full of information in a very concise 2 days, but it gives you the whole bandwidth of what our network offers, and it gives you a look at a bunch of different ideas. And our network is our strongest marketing tool. These guys are tremendous. They're some of the leaders in the industry, and they're just looking to get better, and they're just looking to keep improving their bottom line and building their brand and building their business up.
Cool. I love it. Yeah, I can't wait. And at $500, that's a steal, because you guys include lunch, there are meals included, and with inflation right now, right. You could spend that on lunch easily, but
yeah, no, for sure. Chicken wings are getting up there. So
okay, the chicken wings, there was actually a shortage of chicken wings. Yeah. You remember that? That was
so in my prior life, Jack, we worked with a brand called Vicelli's Pizza. In every Super Bowl year, there would be a shortage. Every year the Super Bowl, there would be a shortage, and the wings would get smaller in size. So, just a little tip: if you want to eat your wings, eat them after the Super Bowl. They get bigger.
All right. Well, we'll have to get wings in Phoenix if we can. And Jim, thanks so much for coming on the show. I'll put a link to that event in the show notes for this. So for those of you listening, I'd love to see you in Phoenix at the LandOpt event. You can also register on their website, landopt.com. And Jim Westover, president of LandOpt, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
I appreciate you, Jack, for having me.
Thanks so much for checking out today's interview. Now, after we stopped recording, Jim and I had a quick chat about how much we love chicken wings. So if you know where we should try chicken wings in Phoenix, Arizona, let me know. Send me an email, jack@ramblinjackson.com, or hit me up on social media. And I hope to see you at this event or some others. So again, check out landscapersguide.com/events. And I look forward to talking with you next week on the Landscaper's Guide. Let's do this all again with more energy, even though I'm sick.